Sometimes around the farm, you need to find water lines or electrical lines, or just be able to locate where your underground lines are. Now, if you're digging around electrical or especially gas lines, you really need to use your local locator service. In Texas, we call it Dig Test. And it's a service where the utility will come out, mark their existing lines, and that way if you dig around it, you'll know. And that's the safest way to do it. But sometimes just finding a water line, you may not need to do that, especially your own private water lines on your own property. In this case, we're trying to locate where a water line is because we're going to ditch near here, and I'll make sure we miss that water line as we're building a ditch right past here. But how do you do that? How do you do that without digging up everything? Well, I'm going to use a way that's been called pseudoscience. Some people believe in it, some people don't, but that's witching. And a lot of people use them to find water location for water wells, and I've never really been good at that or never tried it a bunch because I've never dug a well myself. But I do use the method a lot just to locate water lines. Now, you may have heard the technique used in a couple of different names. Some people call it witching, other people call it dowsing. But essentially it's using a couple of rods called divining rods to help you locate the source of water. And again, I can't tell you why it works. I just know that it does. And where I learned the trick was when I was a teenager, and I used to shoot a bow and arrow, and the arrows were made of aluminum. And if I would shoot and miss the target and the arrow would land in the grass, I would use divining rods to be able to find where the arrow was. And again, I don't know why it works. I just know it does. But generally, when you pass over any kind of metallic object or any kind of water object, the rods will move inward together and help you locate the location of where that particular object is underfoot. And so what we're going to do in this video is show you how to make your own set of divining rods. It's pretty easy. I mean, the way I use it is pretty simple. And then we're going to show you a demonstration of how to actually find and mark where a water line is. So that way, if you have to dig around it or work around it, you're a little more better educated about where those lines are, so you won't bust a water line out on your farm. So to make my own divining rods, I actually start with pretty simple coat hangers like you use in your closet. And then I'm going to make 2 cuts to make my first divining rod. So first cut's going to be right where that kind of top crook is. And then the second cut I'm going to put right in the corner. And then once I have it cut, all I'm going to do is take that remaining piece and straighten it out into an L. Once you've got both pieces cut, now you've got your divining rods ready. So we know the water line is somewhere in this general vicinity, just because I remember putting it in here somewhere, but we don't know exactly where it is. And so I've got my son Ryan here with the divining rods. I'm trying to train him how to do this. And so he'll hold the rods with a really loose hand. He's not going to try to grip them and influence them. He's just making a cup or a circle with his hands, and then the rods will set down inside that. And so as he walks, when he gets over the water line, the rods should cross. And right when they cross, he'll stop and put a flag in the ground. And if he works his way back and forth and does that in 2 or 3 locations, we've got a pretty good idea of the line that water line is going to take through the pasture here. So we just did 3 flags this time, but you could actually do as many as you want. And so what we've got here is a pretty good accurate representation of where we think this water line is. Now, is it exactly under those flags? No, but I guarantee it's going to be within a couple of inches either way. So we're going to be really close to where this water line is. And really all we're doing is marking it, so that way we know just to avoid this area. We're not going to try to dig where the water line is, but we know just to avoid it generally, so we don't get into the water line and have to do repairs. Now again, dowsing or witching or whatever you want to call it, I don't know why it works, but I promise you it does. And this technique I'm showing you, by using a couple simple metal hangers, really works great. And as you can see here, we saved a lot of time from having to poke around, dig around, or even use our memories on where this water line lays. So if you got a couple of minutes one day, give it a try. Again, couple of metal coat hangers, cut them into L's, hold them in a loose hand, and when you pass over any kind of metal or any kind of water, they're going to cross. Now, I look forward to the day when I can use this technique to try to find a water well or dig a water well. But until that day comes, I'm still pretty happy with just locating water lines or locating any other kind of underground disturbance.